Hello, this is Angela with Parker's Permaculture. I promised you all that I would talk about our shed kit now that it is finished and completed and we are using it. We got a shed kit from Costco and it has been a real mixed bag building it and putting it together. So I wanted to give an honest review. What were the ups and downs? What were the things that I thought were really great about this kit? What were the things that are not so great? And whether I would do it again. So first off, I have a couple of videos where I talk about the process of building the shed, the initial steps. We decided to put it on our driveway. When you build a shed and you don't put it on a concrete pad, you risk, especially in a rainy climate like mine, shifting occurring. Now, we don't live somewhere where the ground freezes really hard, so we don't get heaving like you might in the Midwest, but you really are best off to put a concrete pad down. It will extend the life of your shed, and it will also prevent rodents from tunneling underneath, which was and has been a problem with our wood shed in the backyard, which is on concrete blocks. So we used our existing driveway because in Portland, to get a new concrete slab poured requires a permit, and we're trying to avoid pulling permits. We're trying to avoid having the city and county come out and reassess anything on our property. So we're going to just use existing concrete that we already have. Also, we don't want to waste a resource, right? We're just going to use what we already have. And that's fine. We knew that we were giving up half our driveway, half of the driveway that is left after we took out half of it to put in more garden. So we got this shed kit. I asked the next door neighbor's opinion. I crowdsourced. So we went back and forth about the width of the shed, and we opted to get the larger kit because every square foot of storage space matters when you don't have a garage and you have finished half of your basement so your boys have their own bedroom. So we ended up having to widen the driveway. We used existing bricks that were salvaged from another job, and I have a video about how we did that. So we're able to have a really good solid foundation. We got the shed built, it's in. It was a real mixed bag. There are a few things I want to say right off the bat that I would consider pluses. The price, it was on sale. I want to say it was $600 or $800 off when we bought it, and it included free delivery of the kit itself. Now the kit itself weighed 1,800 pounds, so wherever they dropped it on our driveway, it was there until we had the kit completely disassembled and put together as a shed. It came 5 weeks early. In the middle of the rainy season. I had ordered it while it was on sale, strategically expecting it to be delivered at the beginning of dry weather, and was very frustrated that it showed up super early. There was no option to reschedule the delivery without canceling the whole order, and then I would have to reorder at a later date and I would miss out on the sale price. So not super excited about that. Much of the lumber inside was cut incorrectly, and I complained about this in some of the other videos that I made on this subject. Wait till this car goes by. So why did we pick this kit in the first place? It was the right size, it was on sale, and I felt that the roof line matched our house. So the windows matched. I felt like it tied in really nicely with our house, especially because folks could see it from the street. I wanted it to be aesthetically pleasing. I didn't want to put an eyesore on my driveway. I wanted it to look real polished. For me, the selling points were free delivery, on sale, the right size, and would tie in nicely to the house. I went with a kit instead of completely building it on our own because I thought it would save us time. I knew it probably wouldn't save us money, but I thought it would save us time, and we're really busy, right? Like, obviously I have a lot going on in my life. I'm not sure that that turned out to be true. In the future, if we build another shed, I will probably get some of the free shed plans off the internet, and I'll have links in the description to some options for those free plans. I feel like we have enough skills that we could easily do that ourselves without using a kit, especially because a lot of the reasons that I went with a kit where I thought, well, I don't have to drag out the saws. I only have to use a nail gun and screwdriver and a hammer, and everything else is already pre-cut and ready to go. I was very frustrated to find out how many pieces were warped, how many pieces were poorly cut, how many pieces simply didn't fit together. We ended up having to get out multiple different kinds of saws, lots of power tools in order to cut and recut. And actually some of the pieces we had to go get new 2x4s altogether because they were so bowed we couldn't use them for the placement they were supposed to have in the shed. It just didn't work. It was so warped. I can't frame out a wall with 2x4s that are just arcing heavily. Also not included in the kit is any of the roofing materials. So we had to get flashing, we had to get underlayment, and we had to get roof shingles as well. So that's not included in the price. So when you see your kit, don't think like, oh my gosh, this is only, on sale for like $2,800 or something. You're gonna end up buying a couple $100s of paint. You're gonna end up spending several $100s on roofing. For us, once we got the shed put together and framed out and we were starting to do the roof, we realized that the pitch was quite steep and it was quite tall. And I didn't feel comfortable getting up there to shingle it. I did not want my 46-year-old husband, who is the primary breadwinner, to get up on a roof. There also is the electrical line running into our house. And so we opted to hire a contractor, and that cost us $800 added to the cost of the shed. And that was money incredibly well spent on my peace of mind. They knocked it out in a day. They did a really good job. So that was money well spent. But keep in mind, if you're going to be roofing it, you're going to have to get up on a roof, and you need to consider the pitch of your roof and your skills up high on a ladder and the risks to you should you fall off. So getting a licensed and bonded contractor who happened to be doing my next door neighbor's garage and happened to have like a half day of free time in which he was like, sure, I can throw your roof up for you. Excellent job. Very much worth the money. Was not in our original budget. So the shed ended up costing us more than we thought. So once we got the shed all put together, once we ended up having to buy extra lumber to compensate for the lumber that was really warped, once we had to buy extra plywood. Oh, also a few pieces were missing. There are some of these shorter primed pieces of the exterior cladding that were missing from the kit altogether. We luckily had some wood in our stash that we thought would match and was already textured like these guys. And so we used it instead, but that was really frustrating to get in there and find out like, oh, 4 pieces of wood are just not here at all. So if I had been somebody who had bought this kit thinking I wouldn't need to break out any kind of power tools, I would be sorely mistaken. So another thing is that the shed was put together almost entirely with nails, which is very hard on your wrists after a while, particularly my husband who's had wrist surgery. I don't understand why there were not screws for most of the construction and we couldn't just use an impact driver. It was something that I think was done because nails are cheaper than screws, but we ended up going and buying screws for some parts of the project because I was like, this is ridiculous. I'm not nailing all of this in. So I opted to get the most expensive paint, the best exterior grade paint, and I painted all of this. I used a paint sprayer for all of the blue, touched up with a brush, and then obviously did all of this with a brush as well. I opted to use the Sherwin-Williams exterior paint, substantially more expensive than the Home Depot brand. Much, much better. It will last far longer. You can tell the minute you are painting with it, it is a far superior quality, and they have really good sales. When I bought all of my paint, it happened to be 35% off. So if you know you have a project coming up like this, Sherwin-Williams has very good sales. And if you can buy your paint and save it until you're ready to do your project, it saves you quite a lot of money. I think I saved like $60 or $70 off the cost of the painting by going during a sale. So I'm really happy with the paint colors. I used the exact same paint that is on our house. So the corbels of our house are this yellow color, and then the trim is this blue. And I think it ties in really nicely together. It makes the shed, once again, not only the pitch of the roof line, but it makes the shed feel really tied into the house and more like something that is a really permanent structure and looks a little bit classier and better. I did not enjoy painting up on a high ladder, painting way up here with a paint sprayer or painting with a brush. I didn't enjoy it. I don't like getting up high on a ladder, but I did it. And I felt like that was a really big accomplishment for me. I've never done something like this kind of a project before, and I really got a lot out of it. I learned a lot. So let's go look inside the shed now that we've done a lot of the looking at the outside and talking about what was good about it and what wasn't. Let's look inside, and then I will talk about what the cost breakdown was and whether I would do this project again. So we opted to get a better lock here. This is the lock that came with it. There is decorative hinging. You can see here, this is just a strip of metal. It doesn't actually serve any purpose. It's not a hinge. So let me get in here. Oh, also the handle came all dinged up, gouged up. Really not great quality. Obviously, since we're facing the street, I want to go ahead and make sure it's really secure. I opted to paint the inside as well. This is not primed, and so I did 2 coats of paint because obviously when the shed is open, it swings full open, and then this is subject to the weather. With a strong breeze, this definitely gets blown closed, so really worth. So things I would do differently, when you put together the doors, you have to caulk and attach the windows before you do any of the painting. And you can see here, that means that this part is unpainted when the door is open and the contrast is really stark, but that's just a small detail. You definitely have to caulk your window. In fact, it tells you if you don't caulk it, you void your whole warranty on the shed. So these were really frustrating to put together. Also, the screws that came with it, you're supposed to attach 3 screws, were so long that they poked through on the front of the door. So we had to get different screws besides the ones that came with the kit. So this is the inside of the shed so far. We're still working on building shelves and organizing it. Just extra bits of lumber and things in here. This is all cedar shake that a friend gave us I'm going to be using on the greenhouse. These are the windows for my greenhouse, all measured and waiting for their good coats of paint. We built a little bay here for all of our extra odds and ends of lumber. This was really easy to do. Just used scrap wood. Actually, this is the wood from our poultry brooder. If you look back on my videos about us raising poultry, we just disassembled the IKEA shelving and used that. These shelves come with it. This is part of the kit. Lots of nice storage space. Again, this will all get bins and be much more organized. The shelves are quite narrow. We're going to build a workbench over here. For now, we just have like a little table thrown together of scrap wood. I want a workbench here, and I'm going to put pegboard up here probably. You can see the window. We are thinking of putting in a fan on this side to get some air circulation. Nice, tall storage space here up in the rafters to put extra lumber. My husband is 6'3", my son is 6'4", and I'm 6 feet tall. We wanted a shed that was tall and we could stand up in. Let me show you here an example of the flooring. This was everywhere. We're gonna come back and patch this. Everything was miscut, very poorly cut, not square. Really a frustrating process, gaps everywhere, things didn't meet up everywhere. And it was not us. You can see here a little look at the quality of the wood. Very knotty, lots of wood that's quite bowed. So that's what the inside looks like. Please ignore garbage and recycle. This is getting moved elsewhere as soon as I'm done with the greenhouse. So we've gotten lots of positive feedback that folks think the shed looks really nice. I do think the paint made a huge difference in how it turned out. I love the little details that tie everything in together. I love how it fits perfectly. We did have to buy extra pressure treated lumber for the base, by the way. There are separate instructions if you are installing on top of an existing concrete pad. You had to bolt it to the concrete pad, and that was a job, you guys. But then there's extra materials costs. I'm going to talk about that in a second. Let me close up the shed real quick here. So one thing that is quite a nightmare when you're doing a kit and everything is supposed to fit nicely is when it is not cut properly and it doesn't fit nicely. Your door won't close properly. So we had to come back and shave off lots and lots over and over and over to get these doors to close properly. It was really frustrating that they didn't want to close really at all initially. Even though they were hung correctly within the frame, there was no wiggle room to make any adjustments. Before I answer the question, would I get this shed kit again? Let's talk about the cost breakdown. So after the cost of the kit, there is the extra $800 we spent on labor for the roof. There's an extra $500 on roofing material. In fact, it doesn't even tell you to get flashing, and it doesn't tell you to get the underlayment for the roof shingles as well. So that's an additional cost that's not included in the kit's estimate of extra costs. A couple $100 for paint. We ended up spending probably about $100 on extra lumber, both for the base, since we were putting it on a concrete driveway, and to replace pieces that were missing or warped or cut wrong. So overall, this kit ended up costing us well over $1,000 over our budget. I had budgeted for the paint, I had budgeted for the roof shingles, I had not budgeted for the fabric for the roof, I had not budgeted for the flashing because that was not listed, and I am not an experienced roofer, so I didn't know I needed that stuff until I went reading a little bit more. Paying for the roofer was an extra expense, the lumber was an extra expense. Overall, I'm very happy with how this project looks. It's a really usable space. We are going to be storing a lot in here. We're going to be using it regularly. In that regard, yes, it's a success. Yes, I'm very, very happy. It was a good experience for my kids and my husband and I to build this together. It was a good experience in what we would not do again. I would not get a shed kit from a big box store in the future. I would use instructions online. I would prep all of the pieces myself, and we would build it ourselves. I might still hire a roofer if it has that really steep roof pitch and if it's right next to my electrical line in the future. Now, the cost savings over using something like Tough Shed or one of those shed companies that comes and builds on site for you was substantial. So let's say I spent between $3,000 and $3,500 altogether on this shed. The equivalent shed from one of those companies where they come out and custom build it for you, if you include roofing and painting, which are optional, it's easily between $9,500 and $12,000 for the same size shed. So substantial savings. This shed felt like a really big reach for our budget. It felt like a big investment that we knew we needed because we're tired of having stuff stacked out back in our covered pergola area where we would like to eat and have outdoor living space. We have a relatively small house, and an area that we created for outdoor living space was getting used as storage, and it was not working. So we really, really needed this, but we could not afford a custom built shed. So I thought I would save time getting a kit, but overall we really didn't save that much time. In the future, again, I would use instructions on the internet. There's lots of great shed plans for free on the internet. And if you know how to cut your lumber, if you can follow a cut list and you can source all of your lumber, it's much easier and not that much more time to do it yourself versus going through using pre-cut pieces that you think I'm gonna come out this afternoon or come out on a Sunday morning and I'm just gonna knock out the floor of the shed. And then you find, holy crap, none of these pieces are square, they're miscut. Some pieces are missing, some pieces are super warped. Now I'm gonna have to go to the hardware store. Now I'm gonna have to break out the power tools. Now I'm gonna have to get out the circular saw and trim all of this down. It cost us far more in time and money than we had anticipated. And so I don't think there was a savings over starting from scratch ourselves. So thanks for this big long tour. I know that many, many folks kept asking, where did you get this shed from? And again, the model is down in the description. Where did you get this shed from? Did you think it was worth it? Would you do it again? I think it was worth it because it was a learning experience. I took a lot away from it. It's going to be highly functional. I would not do it again this way. Hope that was helpful to you all. I hope that you can find ways to maximize storage and create really functional systems on your property. Those outbuildings can be a really key part in increasing efficiency in our permaculture design. And for us, it definitely is turning out to be that way, helping us better utilize other parts of our space and helping us find good storage. So thank you for watching. It's getting to be rush hour. Everyone's heading home, so I'm gonna go and I'll be back soon. Thanks.